And McLaren and Lotus have already launched their cars for the 2013 Formula One season. So today it's the turn of Force India. Rachel Brooks is at Silverstone Court this morning. A very good morning, Rachel.
Good morning and welcome to Silverstone, home of the British Grand Prix, and some typically British weather greeted us this morning. It's been raining on and off. Now, this area is not only home to the British Grand Prix, but 7 of the 11 Formula One teams are based within 40 miles of this circuit. And in fact, one of them is based less than 500 metres away. Sahara Force India are into their 6th year of Formula One racing, and today they launched their 2013 car. It's here under wraps, but it's going to stay that way for the moment at least. Very pleased to be joined by 2 members of the team, Bob Fernley, Deputy Team Principal, and driver Paul di Resta. Paul, good to see you. Last time we saw you 10 weeks ago in Brazil was the end of the season. What have you been doing since then?
It's a very short winter. I think it comes down to recharging the batteries, restructuring yourself, getting yourself back together, and all preparation for this day. Obviously nervous times, but certainly eager to see what the car's all about. Give it a short test today, get a bit of an idea, but certainly run it in anger in 4 days' time, and I'm sure, equally with me and all the members of staff at Force India, we'll be wanting to see if the performance is high.
A mixed season for you. You had that great result in Singapore and then unfortunately ended with a retirement in Brazil in those really difficult conditions. How would you sum up 2012 as a whole for you?
There were some very good positives, and I think that's what you've got to take from it. We had a very good race in Singapore, a 4th place, narrowly missing on a podium, and that's your sights. That's where you've got to set your goals going for the future. We're looking forward to this year. I think we need to raise our game. We need to be more consistent, but certainly we're going to work hard over the next 2 months, I think, to arrive in Melbourne and certainly give ourselves the best opportunity going forward to battle our rivals, and then trying to do better than that and battle with the rivals that have been a stage in front of us over the last few seasons.
Well, Bob Fernley joins us. Bob, we usually have 2 drivers at a launch like this. I have to ask you, where are we with your second driver, and when can we expect an announcement?
Well, the shareholders obviously are thinking about where the drivers are going to be, but our main objective today is obviously to launch the car and 1 or 2 very important announcements, and obviously Paul is the key person for doing that, so we don't want to confuse the 2 stories.
You had a 7th place finish for the team last season. It's not where you wanted to be, but have you been able to identify where you need to improve to beat the likes of your rivals, Sauber, Mercedes?
Yeah, I think it's following on what Paul said, really. We started off quite slowly last year. I'm hoping we don't do that this year. If we take the second half of the season, we were the 5th best performing team, and I'd like to think that we start where we finished. It will be quite a hard task to do, but I'm sure we're capable of doing it.
Yes, as you said there, start where you finish, Paul. I mean, you had a great car towards the end of last season. What are your targets this season?
I think, it's difficult to set yourself targets, especially at this point. You've not even saw the car and what it's all about yet, but it's consistency, and I think working the momentum, as Bob has said, to carry over from last year. And that's the focus, I think, to come out, make sure we have a car that gets into Q3, put ourselves in strong positions, because at the beginning of the season it's always nice to keep the momentum up in the team, keep everybody eager, and the hard work is on track, and at the end of the day it's the points at the end of the season when they tally up that makes a big difference. And
it's your 3rd year with the team. Have you had a chance to have more input this year into the car's developments?
You always get more inputs. I'm a lot more comfortable in the car, thanks, me nagging at Andrew Green helps a little bit. But this car essentially is all about compromises. Packaging, aero, everybody has their ideas. It's putting it all together. This year, obviously, my 3rd year with this team racing, I feel more senior in the role, and I feel definitely more ready than I ever have. I've got far more experience. I know what it's all about. I'm really looking forward to getting underway and get racing again. It's been a long 8 weeks to wait.
Well, we've kept everyone here waiting long enough this morning, that's for sure. I'm going to step out of the way and let you guys do what you're here to do this morning and unveil the Force India 2013 Challenger for the season. If you'd like to take the wraps off the car, we get our first look at Paul's new office. Paul and Bob unveiling the VJM 06 for the 2013 season. Now, as we I think that deserves a round of applause, don't you? Everyone too intently looking at the car. If I let Paul let you have your photos taken with the car, and Bob, if you'd like to come with me, we'll go and join the man responsible for the VJM 06, and that is Technical Director Andrew Green. Now, Andrew, I have to talk to you about this car this season. Now, last season you said you stopped bringing any major developments to the car sort of mid-season. How has that helped you prepare for this season?
Basically what that allowed us to do was have a stable platform for the last part of the season, and that gave us the opportunity to understand the car in a lot more detail, compare it to where we thought it should be, and understand the differences between our modelling, wind tunnel model and various other models, and the real thing. And that really helped us understand where we should be focusing our attention on this year's car, where the performance gains would be, and that's really where this car has come from.
We've heard a lot about how there are only minor regulation changes this year, so what have you been able to do underneath the skin?
Quite a lot. I've pushed the guys quite hard in areas that is outside their comfort zone, and in areas that, yeah, it is under the skin. You can't see it from here. Rear suspension, front suspension, aerodynamics have all been pushed hard. I think the guys have done a really good job over the winter. The car is a step improvement from last year. We've worked on some of the areas that Paul mentioned, which is consistency. Car should be a lot more consistent, should be a lot easier to drive. Those are areas that we focused on. Looking forward to Jerez really and see whether it does what it says on the tin.
Well, Bob, you finished last season with Nico even leading the race in Brazil for a time. How important is it? You mentioned picking up where you left off. Have you got the car to do that?
Well, I'm sure so. I mean, Andy and his team have put a huge amount of effort in. He knows what direction that we needed to go. And I think if you go back in time, you know, when Vijay first bought the team, you know, we had two drivers fighting for last place. And as you rightly say, the last race we did, we were leading the race. So it's a huge improvement across the board. And that's down to, obviously, Andrew and the team and the two drivers.
Paul, if I can bring you back in at this point, Paul, and ask you your first thoughts on your new office.
It's always nice. It's always nice to see a new car. You know, us, you know, very critical of where it is. You look at edges, you look at packaging, and you know, these team of guys do a remarkable job. And I think the big thing is seeing how it is on track. But you know, I've saw it develop over the last 3 or 4 months, seen various glimpses of it. And when you actually see the finished article and see it together, and it is actually the first time I've saw it all together, it looks very sharp. And looking forward to seeing what it's all about on track.
It's had a nose job, Andrew. You've gone for the vanity panel on it. So talk to us about that. We've had differing decisions. I mean, we saw the sloping nose still with McLaren, but Lotus said they hadn't gone for it because of the extra weight. What was your thinking behind adding it?
Ours is purely performance driven, and really the performance is not on the top of the chassis. It's what you can do underneath, and by pushing the chassis to its limits, it allows us to get the aerodynamic performance. Putting the panel on top cleans up the flow over the top of the chassis. It's a small thing, but to us it's important, and it's something that we decided to do.
And it looks prettier again, Paul, that's for sure. What do you make of it? We have a closer look at the car, actually, if we can have a closer look around. Paul, any other changes that you've noticed from seeing it so far this morning that we can talk about?
Well, I'm not going to highlight anything. That's for Andrew. I know how secret Formula One is, but I think the most important thing is comfort for me when I'm inside the cockpit is how it feels. It's all about feedback. It's all about how you can react with it, how you can get into it, and you know, hopefully with my team of people surrounding me, we can get this car balanced and we can take where we left off last year and, you know, have some very good qualifying sessions that pushes us into strong race finishes.
Now the DRS rules have changed in terms of their use, restrictions on use in qualifying. Do you think that's going to help teams like yours?
I think ultimately yes. I mean, I think it's a bit safer, and I think that was the biggest drive, certainly from the driver's side, to make sure, you know, the DRS was used for what it was, and that straight line speed for overtaking. It makes the lap a bit more less complicated. Overall, I think it's going to have exactly the same effect. I think everybody will still be able to overtake should their car be faster. But you know, it's early days, and you know, that's what's good about Formula One. It changes a lot, it moves on, and I think it gives us something different. Along with no rule changes this year, the tyres are slightly different. So again, you go into the winter testing really just understanding everything, and you know, you have a team of engineers that I'm sure will come up with their own philosophies.
You mentioned the tyres there. They caused all sorts of problems for teams at the start of last season. We saw 7 different winners in the first 7 races. Do you think we'll see that again?
I'd like to think so. I like it mixed up. I like it to be difficult. You know, I think we're in a high-pressure environment. That's when we excel ourselves. That's when you see the key people, and key people stand out with their strong ideas. And that's what, you know, I'm pushing my team to do. And I think, you know, with another year's experience, we can only help that. And I think we as a team understood the tyres very well. We had some great results early on in the year. For instance, Bahrain, you know, we were the only car to do a two-stop strategy and got a great 6th place out of it when the car probably wasn't at that level yet.
Have you had a chance to drive this in the simulator very much? And what are you looking forward to trying on the track? I mean, you will get a chance to drive this later on today.
Yeah, I mean, as Andrew said, essentially the cars, you know, it's an evolution of the car from last year. It's not a completely different philosophy. But, you know, there's small details. I think when you get it on track, you'll get a proper feel for it. We'll try and simulate as much as we can in the simulator, but the ideal thing is to get it on track, see what it's all about, and then really just slowly but surely get through our testing objectives, get the things that are higher on the list out of the way, really understand it, because in not too long we'll be out in qualifying in Melbourne, and that's really when you have to turn the pressure on and make this car perform.
All right, well, Paul, thank you very much for joining us, and to Bob and to Andrew. Paul will get to take out the VJ-M06 onto the track very shortly and see what it feels like on the track rather than in the simulator, and we'll be speaking to him after that to find out just how it felt. But that's all for now, and don't forget all your Formula 1 news on Sky Sports News, and also every race live on Sky Sports 1 F1 HD.
Rachel, thank you very much indeed, and you can see live coverage of the opening Grand Prix of the season in Melbourne live from March the 15th on Sky Sports F1 HD.